Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining me today. My name is Guadalupe Arreola. I'm a senior majoring in environmental engineering, and today I will be talking to you all a little bit about my idea for a future company, Innovative Environmental Solutions. I want to take us to a project in Orlando, Florida at a small Air Force facility. The facility was closing down, and a team of engineers had been hired to remove the pollution that had entered the soil. The team decided to use potassium permanganate to chemically oxidize the pollutant. As you can see, they used way too much of this chemical. It ended up running into a nearby water body, reacting with the chemicals already in the water and turning it pink. This is just one example of environmental engineering solutions that have gone wrong. There is countless more, from badly designed wastewater treatment plants to increased flooding from incorrect calculations. It is commonly acknowledged that environmental projects may solve the problem at hand, but oftentimes leads to downstream problems that can require more money and more resources to solve. When I look at what went wrong with these projects, I thought of three things that these environmental firms are not doing that are leading to these downstream problems. The first thing is that most of the current firms are not working with systems thinking in mind. They are focusing on the problem given, which would work in traditional engineering, but when you're working with something like the ecosystem, everything affects everything. You may have a problem with soil pollution, but it is connected to the wildlife in the area, the plant life that is there, groundwater, as well as any water bodies that might be nearby. Feeding this lack of system thinking is not having the right people in the room. An environmental engineer could never think of everything in the system. You would need any combination of a botanist, chemist, economist, ecologist, a landscape architecture, to be able to fully grasp the scope of the problem. The second problem I could see is that most firms tend to gravitate towards mechanical or chemical solutions. In the Florida case, the team opted to use a chemical that created an even bigger issue for them. They could have chosen to remediate the area with phytoremediation or any other natural solution. This would have taken time to let the plants grow and absorb the pollutant, but it would have saved money. It would have let the environment adjust at its own pace instead of pushing a quick solution that ultimately failed them. This concept can be applied to many other projects. The environment has a tendency to fight for equilibrium, and if we just give it that small push, it will do the rest of the work for us in time. Finally, the last problem is that even when these firms do choose to go with a more natural solution, such as a grassed waterway or a water retention bed, or even still with their mechanical or chemical solutions, they do not tend to do after implementation monitoring. Environmental issues are definitely not one size fits all type of problems. There are many factors that change between each project, and because of this, there can be a variety of issues that can come up after implementation. Once a solution fails, most firms have no way of knowing what went wrong because these systems are not being monitored after installation. If they were monitored, the data could be used to figure out what exactly went wrong, allowing it to be fixed quickly instead of having to create a completely new design, and would give information on how to completely avoid the issue in the future. These three problems are what Innovative Environmental Solutions wants to focus on with our business by making sure that every problem is tackled by the right people who have the whole system in mind, making sure that we focus in on natural solutions that will lower the price of projects and help improve the environment, and finally, ensuring that all of our projects are monitored and altered as needed. We will give our customers a better price that will push them to choose our company, and we will help our ecosystems return to a more natural state. When I started doing market research, I found that we have a lot of competition. There's already several well-established engineering firms, environmental engineering firms, as well as other firms that do environmental work as well. However, as I mentioned, we will stand out by doing what these companies are not, and that is the systems thinking, the natural solutions, and the monitoring. Our business model will be a fee-for-service model where customers will pay an upfront cost, and then as the plan for the project continues to develop, the customer will continue to make payments. Our go-to-market plan is very simple. Use our connections to spread the word about our business, bid for projects, and with our lower prices, we think that we will definitely have customers that will be interested in us. We will perform our highest quality of work and ensure that we foster genuine connections with our clients. This will encourage more people to spread the word about our business and will bring in more clientele. I wanted to give you all a little rundown of how I did my financial projections. I started off with my main costs, including payroll and software purchasing. I try to keep costs low to start off with. I did this by paying myself very minimally and starting out with just one other employee. Our team would of course grow as we start producing a profit, but to start off, I wanted to keep it small. Also, to keep costs low, we would start out in a home office, and once we have more growth, try to find an office location to either buy or rent. For revenue, I had trouble finding what current companies charge for projects, but I did find a source that estimated around $600,000. This was including the initial project design as well as the cost of construction and materials to construct. I chose to only look at what I thought would be the revenue from the design aspect and what I could add in for monitoring. So the construction would not be included. I estimated that 200,000 of the 600,000 would be for the design and for monitoring. So the revenue from one project was estimated at around 200,000. I chose not to include the construction aspect because there were a lot of unknown variables without having any specific dimensions to a project. And so having to get a quote from potential contractors and all of that, it would have been pretty difficult without any concrete numbers. So I stayed with what would kind of be done in-house. This slide goes a little bit into the break-even analysis that was done for the company with the costs and the revenue that I talked about in the last slide. If you look at the very last box with the purple writing, you can see that we would break even with 1.5 projects. We would definitely break even within our first year of being up and running, and as we continue to turn out a profit, we could grow our team and continue to bid for those bigger projects. One of the last things that I wanted to make sure to touch on was that these financial projections contain a lot of estimates, and there's no real average price for a project. It would, of course, be dependent on what the problem is and how large of an area is being used for the project. It was very difficult to find any concrete numbers for this type of service, but the break-even analysis gives the best estimate of what I could find. So that concludes my presentation for today. Thank you all so much for listening in and learning a little bit more about innovative environmental solutions. Right now, I am working on gaining the correct experience to make this business a possibility in a few years. It really is my dream to change the way that we do environmental engineering, and I really appreciated doing the launch competition just to make me sit down and really think about what goes into starting a business like this. So thank you again and have a great rest of your day.